So here come them cowboys. And they were boys that took care of cows. They worked hard and want to be the best. And it was a pride. And to be the best you could be, just like in this top hand, was all they dreamed about. I was raised a cowboy. I was raised on a ranch, but my father was not a cowboy. My father worked, there was a gravel pit on a ranch, and that's where Dad worked. My uncle worked for the King Ranch. And so I was raised on that ranch, and I ran with the ranch cowboys. I was pretty lucky. The ranch cowboys liked me, I guess, as a kid, and I got to, and the ranch owner liked me. He even had a horse that was special for me, and so I could ride with them when they were working cattle during the day and this sort of stuff. And I grew up working in there. Started out working in the pens, and and I just loved it. But like I got an example. I've got a great grandfather. I did some research on him and I actually got to read a letter that he wrote after he had left them. And he came from a good family. They came over from Ireland, and when they got to the United States, there was seven kids in the family, and they landed in New York there right under, of course there wasn't a Statue of Liberty there, but right there. And Dad told him, he said, I can't feed all of you. There's no jobs for us, no place for us to lay to sleep. He said, those of you that are older, you're going to have to figure out how to make it on your own. And he got on a boat going down the coast and went around the Cape, went around the coast all the way down to Florida. He walked across Florida, caught another boat going to New Orleans, working on it. Each time he'd work, working on that. But when he got to New Orleans, then he caught a paddle boat going up the Mississippi, and then he wound up, somehow or another, he got back down and went down the coast again on down to Brownsville, Texas. And that was the end of it. He was on a paddle wheel down there, and that was the end of it. He had no place further to go, no place to get any further. And so he heard about a trail herd being put together, and that the guy was hiring hands. He'd never been a cowboy, hardly ever rode an animal of any kind. But he went, and the guy gave him a job being a cowboy. And he started and he was 16. And he did his first trail, and he did it till he was 21. And then he got a job as a leather maker in a leather shop, because he was able to get that. So it was a pretty tough life, and it wasn't something you really wanted to do, and it didn't pay all that well. $1 a day, and hopefully the cook was good, one of them was like ours and good enough to have you ate good. $1 a day and you ate good, and that's it. A cowboy's heart. You can be a banker, you can be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever you want to be. But cowboy's in your heart, and you can be one of those and be a cowboy, because it's something that you feel very deeply and very strongly and with a lot of pride. I'm very proud. Now I'm fat and old now, and I'm way fat, but so I don't ride. I'm riding the wagon now. I don't ride a horse, but that's because I love it. I'm going on 70 years old, so it's not but it's still something that I look back on with pride, and I was a good cowboy. I was a good cowboy. Cowboys were not well thought of back then. They were kind of the lowest of the low as far as people go around there. If we came into a town, they didn't want the cowboys there. Not because, like you see in the movies, of them all getting drunk and shooting up the place and chasing all the women. They didn't do that. They really didn't do that. It might have happened once or twice by accident. They didn't really do that. Just that they didn't have any money, and they were mostly uneducated, pretty disrespectful of others because they felt like they had been treated so bad, they'd give it back. They were good boys. They come off with nice families. And it's hard for movies now. They look like they're old buddies sitting around a fire singing songs at night. It wasn't that way. Because you rode hard all day long, and the minute you got in there and got you something to eat, if you weren't the one that's fixing to go ride night herd, you got in your sugar and went to sleep and got all the rest you could get because you wasn't going to get much. And this was just something that you did. And you're seeing the movies at the end of the trail, they just whooped and hollered, spent all their money, and then went back up to the beginning and went back down through it again. You didn't. Most of them were pretty decent thinkers, and they'd save their money and keep it together until they could finally put themselves away together to go into something, to doing something else. It was just being a cowboy at that time was a desperation thing. You did it because you couldn't find nothing else. In the movies, you see them where they're afraid of stampedes. Stampedes didn't scare them so much. Crossing a river. You get a deep river like your Brazos River here. If you don't have the right place and the weather ain't right and the river ain't down, it's a dangerous thing to be crossing. Because if you're crossing a river and a big log hits your horse and knocks you down and you're down in the water with all your gear on and this sort of thing, it's tough to swim out. Cattle, the herd gets to move, and the next thing you know, the herd gets over you, gets around you, and you're caught up in the herd in the trail, and you could go down. So it was very dangerous. They'd lose more hands to drowning than they ever lost to stampedes or outlaws or Indians. And so it was just something that you didn't want to do. Sometimes you would figure where you were going, and you'd figure how many rivers you had to cross and make up a decision whether you wanted to go or not. It was not. They had a very unpleasant life, but they seemed to like it. It was unpleasant, but it was a badge of courage when you reached 24, 25 years old and quit. You could brag. I went up the trail 6 times. You know, that was something that was something people were proud of you. You see these teepees, like right over there, that looks good, and the cook may have one, but nobody else did. No room to haul them, no place to haul them. So you slept out in the open. There were no trees, so if it rained, you got rained on. And then you got up in the morning and hoped it quit raining so the sun would come out and dry you out, and you keep right on going. It was a really tough, nasty life.